Hey guys, it's the Villaman here, home theater enthusiast and lover of all things tech, and with the imminent launch of the next-gen PS5 and Xbox Series X console, as well as the next-gen graphics cards from both Nvidia and AMD, it's a really good and expensive time to be a gamer. A lot of people though think they need a new TV to get the most out of all of these devices, but is that really true? Well, today that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Stick around. Oh yeah, if you're into home theater audio and video reviews, demos, and comparisons, then welcome, because you are finally at the right place. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already and come along for the ride. Okay, so let's not beat around the bush and get straight to the issue at hand. A lot of you may know that the next-gen consoles support the most recent HDMI standard, HDMI 2.1, which has a bunch of new features specifically catered to gamers like VRR, ALLM, KFC, you name it. But although those features might be great in theory, they might not necessarily be something worth going out and buying a new TV for. Take for instance 120Hz refresh rate support. Most of the 2020 model TVs that I've reviewed so far have a screen with 120Hz refresh rate. That's something that high frame rate gamers would mostly benefit from. Competitive gaming is certainly helped by having a higher refresh rate, so the action on screen is smoother, but that's just the thing. Competitive gamers, specifically those on PC, would likely benefit more from that than console gamers on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, especially at launch and for a while after that. And to expand on that some more, here's a rationale using the current gen consoles. The PS4 Pro and Xbox One X were both intended to be the more powerful 4K versions of their respective consoles, and even though they output at 4K at 60 Hz, neither of them could reliably run games at that resolution and frame rate, especially nothing challenging. So we had to choose between frame rate and resolution, or the performance and image quality modes. And even then, a lot of games still weren't native 4K or 60 frames per second. They used tricks like tile rendering, variable resolutions, or variable frame rates, among other things. Granted, it wasn't that big of an issue when it was done well, but that's what the developers did. Now fast forward to today and the next gen consoles, and here we are again being promised 4K image quality but at an even higher frame rate. And I don't mean to be a pessimist, or maybe I do, I don't know, but I don't think that's going to happen this time either. At least not with any games with next gen visuals, or more certainly not at launch. So what's going to happen? Well, I think it'll be more of the same but better. What does that mean? Well, I think the performance and resolution modes that we've been used to this past gen will continue into next gen. So the image quality and performance modes of games, but the frame rates and the resolutions that we've been used to in the last gen will be bumped up. Because think about it, we can't have these challenging graphical techniques like global illumination or ray tracing to the level that we saw on that PS5 demo a few months back and still expect it to run at 4K at 120 or even 4K at 60. No, instead what I think we'll see are games running at 4K 60 frames per second in the best case scenarios for the most part, for those of us who choose to prioritize the image quality, and a 120 Hz at a variable resolution or a detail level, or a combination of them for those of us who prioritize performance. Games like Dirt 5 are already doing this, and I see this being continued by other studios. The game has 3 modes, and 2 of them, the image quality and the frame rate modes, both target 60 frames per second. One just has a higher visual setting than the other, but they both adjust the resolution if things get really crazy on screen. Then there's the third mode, the 120 Hz mode, which renders the game at 120 Hz, which is awesome, but it's not reasonable to expect a game to give you twice the frame rate of 4K 60 without giving up something in either details, resolution, or even a combination of both. Nothing is free after all. And that's the thing, although there might be 120 frames per second games, they won't look as good as their 60 frames per second counterpart, at least not at launch. There are a bunch of games that will have 120 frames per second support, from Call of Duty to Devil May Cry 5, among others. I'm sure as time goes by, there will be games that completely blow us away and do so at higher frame rates, but by then your current TV might need replacing anyways. So at that point, you can get a TV that ticks all those HDMI 2.1 boxes. So gaming, for now at least, will still be 4K 60 for the most part. If you want the best of the best and the option to game at higher frame rates for the games that support it, then getting a new TV would certainly be the option to take. But I don't think it'll be a necessity. Your current HDR TV will more than likely have a refresh rate of 60 Hz at 4K, so it'll most likely be totally fine for gaming, at least for a while. If you'll be using your TV for PC gaming, however, with the new Nvidia or AMD graphics card, then that's another story. Those cards will be more than capable of running a game at 4K 120 and be able to feed your TV those sweet frames per second, so they would more benefit from a newer TV. Either way, if you're buying a new TV for high frame rate gaming, then another thing to consider is not just the refresh rate, but also the input latency, because input lag would be a very big factor in high frame rate gaming, especially if it's competitive. I mean, I reviewed, tested, and compared a bunch of the 2020 model TVs so far, so you can check out the playlist linked in the description, and also I'll be creating a list of recommended TVs in a few price categories, so make sure to subscribe and enable those notifications so you know when that video lands. Let me know in the comments if a high refresh rate is a factor you're considering and which TV you're looking into getting. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and thanks for watching. Until next time, this has been your friend and neighborhood Villaman saying be safe and peace.